Joining us now, Congressman James Walkinshaw, Virginia, member of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, thanks for joining us this morning. Can you give us a preview of what you think? Quite frankly, I'm not as interested in what Hillary Clinton has to say. It seems pretty certain that she does not actually have any ties to Jeffrey Epstein. But we've all seen the pictures of Bill Clinton in a hot tub with Ghislaine Maxwell, in pictures with unidentified women. Can you give us a preview of what you think you're going to be hearing and what lawmakers are going to be hearing from Bill Clinton?
Yeah, and first, you're absolutely right about Secretary Clinton. I do, though, think it is revealing about the approach Oversight Committee Republicans have taken to this investigation. She provided a sworn statement clarifying what we all know. She had nothing, zero, zilch, zip, nada to do with Epstein. We shouldn't be deposing her. I'm going to be there nonetheless because I want to see what kind of 1990s scandals my Republican colleagues are trying to dredge up with respect to her. With respect to President Clinton, I think he is in a category that a lot of folks are in who had relationships with Jeffrey Epstein. He did fly on Epstein's plane. And the question that I have for everyone in that category is, first, were you involved? And second, did you see and hear things that should have led you to know that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were committing these horrific crimes? He's provided a sworn statement saying that's not the case, but I think it's important that we question him to determine that so we can rule it out.
Given what you just said about especially Hillary Clinton, the dredging up of 1990s scandals for both of these folks, how are Democrats gaming out how to ensure this doesn't devolve into just a rerun of everything that happened while Bill Clinton was president and while she was Secretary of State, for that matter?
Yeah, and I think you saw that play out during the long-running debate and negotiation as to how this deposition, this questioning would take place. And one of the things I pressed Chairman Comer and the Republicans on was to commit that the questioning should be limited to issues related to the Epstein investigation. The Republicans wanted to be able to ask the Clintons questions about, all of their other fever dreams related to Bill and Hillary Clinton, and we succeeded in getting the scope limited to the Epstein investigation.
But do you really believe that they're going to hold to that?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. And that is one of the reasons why I'm flying to New York next week, to be in those rooms to ensure that they do and to push back if they don't.
Maybe that'll be a saving grace. Well, two saving graces there. One, these hearings won't be televised and live, and two, they won't be here in Washington. They will be in New York. But Congressman, as all of us following the Epstein saga, we've been focused on the documents, trying to get them, the files released from the Justice Department, trying to get at the truth. And something that happened on, I think this was yesterday that happened in England because of the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew. The former Prime Minister of the UK, Gordon Brown, hands new sex trafficking dossier to police. Gordon Brown has sent a fresh dossier of evidence to police investigating Jeffrey Epstein's flights in and out of Britain at the time the late pedophile was accused of trafficking women. And this caught my attention because it alerted me to the fact that while we're all focused on what the DOJ has in terms of the documents, there are documents in other places where you and your committee can now go and ask for those documents. So has the committee reached out to the former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, to see what he has, what other things he might have?
I think we'll be doing that this week coming up. To add to your list, a place that we know has documents is the Treasury Department. And Secretary Besson has been resisting Senator Wyden's efforts to get access to financial documents and banking documents. We have been pushing hard on the Oversight Committee to follow the money and subpoena banking and financial documents. I think if we follow the money, we'll find out a lot more about how Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell put together this massive global sex trafficking ring. But we're getting a lot of pushback when we try to access those financial documents.
And Congressman, I want to stay on the topic of missing documents because survivor Jess Michaels came on our show last weekend and had this to say about her missing 302.
I am one of the people that 302 is missing, and I have been working with a journalist. They have reached out to the FBI there is an email exchange between me and FBI agent, Special Agent Amanda Young, that shows that we had just spoken, and I had given important information about a potential co-conspirator. And we can't find my 302. We can't find the dozens of emails that were sent when the first time that I reached out to the FBI. It was in September of 2019.
How are lawmakers going about identifying and finding and hopefully publicly releasing documents like this?
So my suspicion is that the documents Jess was referring to are in the 2.5 to 3 million documents that the DOJ is refusing to release because Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche made a subjective determination that they had over-collected documents and didn't need to release all of those documents. They also could be among the hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of pages in the release documents that are completely blocked out. So we're going to continue pressing that the law be followed. As I've noted before on this show, the Oversight Committee's subpoena is still valid, will continue to be valid. I suspect if there's a change in control of Congress next year, will be even more valid and enforced more stringently. So we're not going to give up. Those documents will ultimately be released, and there will be accountability, not just for anyone named in those documents, but also those who have been involved in preventing those documents from coming to light as the law requires.
Congressman James Walkinshaw of the great Commonwealth of Virginia. We miss having you here actually at the table. Thank you as always.
Next time.
All right. Thank you as always for coming to the weekend. Coming up.